Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined once again by Mark Gonzalez of First National Bullion. The link is in the description. Everyone is at risk when it comes to their money in the bank right now. We are seeing insane moves towards restricting your ability to get money out of the bank because of new digital IDs, because of potentially vaccine passports. This stuff is getting really crazy in the weeds when we're talking about this move towards global technocracy. It means that your money will be used against you, and it means in the face of the Great Reset, you won't be able to access that which you work so hard for. So it's very important we get into this today. And I wanted to get into something, it's out of natural news. It says new ATM technology is coming that will enforce vaccine compliance before you're allowed to access bank deposits. It's absolutely insane. We're going to get into that and much more today, my friends. Before we do, I urge you to check that link below, firstnationalbullion.com/schedule consult slash. It has to be that exact link, and you can go and buy physical gold and silver, platinum or palladium. You could hold it in your hands, you could put it in a vault, you could put it in an IRA, and if you go through that exact link, you get to work with Mark Gonzalez and get a free consultation and a complimentary investors package. It is in the description below. This is about saving yourself from the coming CBDC system, the coming Internet of Things. And of course, when you sign up, all you have to do is write in the comments of the sign-up sheet that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM, and I think it'll be very beneficial for you going forward. So go and check that out below. But let's get into this article. I want to talk a little bit about what this is, and then we're going to hear from Mark on what he thinks this means and the dangers of what we're dealing with right now, because it is creeping up on us fast. It says new ATM technology is coming that will enforce vaccine compliance before you're allowed to access bank deposits. And the article goes into, it says, a couple at the University of Virginia filmed a new UVA Community Credit Union automated teller machine that they claim will soon require users to submit proof of vaccination status in order to use. I want to just say it's not necessarily going to be vaccines. It could be any form of digital ID. I want to lay out that blueprint before we get further into that article, because I think it's important for the context. But it says, manufactured by South Korean industrial conglomerate Hyosung, the ATM looks like most others, but the couple identify components of it that they say point to the coming implementation of vaccinations as a prerequisite for accessing banking services. It says, and I quote, okay, so here we have the new ATMs here at the UVA Credit Union here in Charlottesville, Virginia, the man says in the video below while introducing viewers to the ATM. And I quote, looks like they're made by Hyosung with a thing that kind of looks like the buildings there in Wuhan, China. This looks like a bar to possibly scan your license plate or your vehicle. Down here, we have ID scan for, I assume, for vaccination cards. As the man is explaining that he believes the ID scanner and palm scanners are for possible microchips to be associated with vaccination cards, the woman is heard in the background emphasizing that she and the man are trying to warn everybody. It's a crazy thing. It's a crazy video. We're seeing this start to happen everywhere. We already see the push for California's digital license plates, and we're seeing similar things in Utah attached to social credit. Totally insane. The article continues. It says, you will notice that the entire video bears the words Beast Banking Systems Getting Ready as its descriptor, the idea being that this new ATM at UVA is designed to accommodate the eventual rollout of an entirely new financial system, end quote. And so what they're going to do is they're going to require mandatory vaccinations for all Americans and all of your children, the man continues. And if you do not comply with them, then they're not going to allow you to have access to your money, he added. They will take your children. You will not have any kind of benefits. They will give you the option to opt out, to give you free will to make your own choices. Look, they won't give you any sort of opting out options here, my friends. This is the move into the beast system, technocracy, if you will. We see in Sierra Leone, they already have digital IDs where you can't access your bank account unless they're attached to it. We already see, and Bill Gates Foundation and the United Nations rolled that out, by the way. We saw Kenya's OGEC people restricted from their bank accounts for having bad carbon credit scores. We saw Nigeria restrict people's bank accounts if they weren't vaccinated in 2021, 2022. And by the way, we see the digital IDs rolled out in both Australia, in the UK, in France, and Canada, and yes, in the United States. And it's all part of a very big agenda to restrict your basic freedoms. Mark, let's go into this. This is really crazy. Again, it's not necessarily just vaccines, though they are pushing out new pandemics, fake hoaxes of what they call pandemics. But we also know that they want to restrict behavior. We see censorship. We see all these different things. All of these things can play into perhaps a social credit score based on a CBDC digital ID attached to your bank account. How dangerous is this? Where do you see this going in the near future?
Well, dangerous. Yeah, it's extremely dangerous. It's terrifying. And in fact, and where it's going is, well, it's something that you and anybody else like you and I've been talking about for a long time. It's more the total control. And you know, I read that article and I'm glad you sent it to me because I know that technology exists, but I didn't know they actually started pushing it into ATMs or developing something like that. It could very well be for vaccinations. There is no proof on that. But it's going to be as far as something that's going to control you. It's another level or step you're going to have to take to access what you believe is yours, and anything in the banking system legally is not yours. So it's just numbers on the screen of what the bank actually owes you. It's an IOU to you, the creditor. So the lies are already put into place, and it kind of reminded me when I read the article. I remember that Amazon started in Seattle. They started doing these little like pop-up fresh markets where you could walk in and they were completely cashless, and it had sensors and cameras. Imagine that, where you could go take something off the shelf and you take it off the shelf. And even if you just want to read the ingredient list, which you always should do, always read your ingredient list, and you decided you wanted to keep it, if you kept it off the shelf, then it automatically has a weight sensor, kind of like taking something out of the minibar from a hotel. And as soon as you walk out that threshold of that institution, then you're immediately billed for it. And then lo and behold, Amazon again, who owning Whole Foods, I think it was about 2 years ago, they came up with the biometrics palm print. So these are all things that are put into place that seem like cute little, you know, conveniences, but they're really meant to enslave you. And it's not just about the vaccine passport. It's about whatever control, if any and all control, to control your thoughts, your actions, what you say, what you do, and how you spend your money, or even access to live. That's really what it's about. I mean, you're already seeing, like, as you mentioned, in Australia, I mean, they're really pushing for this hard. And then now in the UK, you have people getting arrested because they're posting something on Facebook.
And that is like the best precursor to social credit, Mark. I mean, what we're dealing with when they say you're censored from saying things on social media, well, social media is going to be integrated in social credit later, and that will in turn be attached to bank accounts. There's no doubt. That's what the World Economic Forum says they want. That's what the United Nations says they want. So we're witnessing this rollout right now. Even if it's not a vaccine pass, even though that was obviously a litmus test for what we're seeing across the board. Mm-hmm. If you have a social credit score based on things you said on social media, and we've all said things in private messages, in public, whatever, that would not bode well for our social credit over time, then how dangerous can it be when we go to try and get our own money out of the bank? This article says that the banks have to purchase their own ATMs, that they're responsible for it, et cetera. But it's much bigger than that. People don't really see through the looking glass on this as much as they should be.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's again, it's little by little by little, and then all at once. So these things get implemented over time to kind of desensitize yourself to them. But if you have the ability to control access, not only to what you think, do, say, and feel, whether you opinionate it or not, but what do you need your ATM card for? What do you need cash for? I mean, how many times a day do you actually stop by to get a coffee or fill up the gas tank, or just any of these creature comforts that everybody takes for granted? If that becomes restricted, I mean, how are you going to live? So you said in the article, it says that there's going to be an opt-out. I think there actually is going to be an opt-out, but the opt-out comes at peril. You don't have to participate in the system that's coming for us. You can choose to ignore it. You can choose to try to survive on your own, but unless you're going to be able to live for the rest of your life, you know, as the hermit on the hill, and you could sustain yourself out of civilization, then you're going to have to enter it at some point in time. So this is very dire. It's a form of gating your access to your funds, and it's kind of similar to what happened. We did a video about 3 weeks ago with the debacle and the rate rise in Japan, and how certain institutions just simply would not let you log on. And the reason they didn't let you log on is if too many dollars or funds left those accounts, it would cause a margin call on their balance sheet. So, expect those things bigger in the future. But it's all these little nuances of control of what you can and cannot have access to and your ability to move. So in the future, if there is a vaccine passport, or even, what's coming with the social credit score and the carbon credit score, and I believe that there is going to be a vaccine passport, depending on what you say, what you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, what you post on social media, you're going to be blocked out. And any of those things can be a reason to limit you from access to your funds. And now, guess what? Now you can't go get the steak, right, to eat. You can't get the vegetables. You can't get gas. You can't get shoes when your shoes bust. All these little different things. And you're going to be guided and directed, where beatings will continue until morale improves, until you become complicit. And I'm not too sure how to get out of this system, because it's been going this direction for a long time. I mean, you're talking decades. We've been building up to this point, and it seems like now here we are, and it's rolling out quicker at a time that you got the chaos of potential World War III, you got the chaos of other pandemics with bird flu, and you're already seeing the actual repercussions of what social credit and what you think, do, and say.
And people in the West have never been more weak. Also, I mean, you play in all these things, and people have never been so weak. Well,
because they're just broken down, and well, I mean, when you modify the food and you kind of make strong men weak.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I mean, obviously, it was a well thought out plan, but yeah, there's so much I could say about the weakness around here. And it's not really just this country. It's really globally, but it's hard to stand up when you don't have the numbers behind you.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you and I were hanging out in Puerto Vallarta, and I can't wait to get back there, and you've done meetups before. Thank God for that. And there's a handful of us to get together. Yeah. I mean, we're a tribe. It's kind of like rolling town with your boys. Someone stands opposition. Well, guess what? You got to handle me, and you got to handle the 5 guys behind me. So it's going to be a little bit easier for that. And the ratio, I think, for the stand up for us to be resilient and actually take back what is ours, there's a thing called the 3.5% rule, where historically 3.5% of the population, if it was to rise up at the government, whether peaceful or forceful, can actually change that and cause a regime change.
Yeah, because that is the amount of people in 1776, or in the American Revolution, that stood up, that led to the overthrowing of the British government on American soil.
Right. So, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Now we're in a different age in time where, not only are you under surveillance state, but in the future, what happens? Do they deploy drones to shock you, laser tag you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is all speculation at this point, but I know this technology exists. It's going to be a little harder than, running through the forest with your musket to take out some sort of redcoat. But yeah, the system change is in fact coming, and I think what the takeaway is, people need to really see it for what it is. So if 3.5% can cause some sort of uprising to revolution and reclaim in the name of freedom and free will, your government, or how you operate in society, there's a yin and yang to everything. So there could be a 3.5%. Pushback against you to get total control.
Yeah.
So, where are we now with that? It brings to mind the limitation of access when CrowdStrike went down. That was only 1% of the global network. Yeah. What happens again if it's 3.5%?
And that was a total dry run. That was a false flag. If
I would bet anything and everything I have on that. You're not going to convince me otherwise. But so if numbers matter, if percentages matter, and they do, especially, look historically where metals are going to go in revaluation to a default of the currency that prices it. But if the numbers really matter, then, stand up and take action of that 3.5% a day.
Yeah.
You know, change maybe your outlook or take action on the things that you've been putting aside and thinking that tomorrow's going to come because you got a little bit busy. So start taking action on your
Well,
personal.
I want to get into that right away, Mark. But I want to point out, okay, you mentioned Japan earlier, and of course they shut down people's ability to access their money. CrowdStrike caused people to be unable to access their money. We talked about the demoralization of society and the weakness of society that leads to dependence. Dependence begets more control. And of course, when you have a new technocratic system of governance coming in with the banking system, then you have further dependence because people depend on their bank accounts. And I would say, no matter how awake most people are out there that are watching this right now, the vast majority of people watching are not prepared. If their bank goes down tomorrow, they will not be able to survive through it without begging the government or the banks for help. And again, when I say that, the banks are regulating these ATMs that they're now creating, which by the way, they've already had in China for a while in their push for social credit, which I've been talking about for 15 years. They called me crazy when I said China was unrolling social credit 15 years ago. Now it's mainstream, but it's been accepted. It's been normalized. When all this comes to your banking system, when it comes to you depending on the money you made and having it in the bank or even in cash under your bed, constantly devaluing, I think it's very important that people recognize that they are all on a slippery slope. I am too. I've taken precautions myself, and I'm still on a slippery slope. We have to do more. And I want to inspire people to do more in this because we are facing down something that we've never seen before in history. Now, Mark, talking about gold and silver as wealth insurance, it's one of the few ways that you actually have access to something that could help you in the face of all of this, in the face of social credit, because they're not going to be able to take away all the gold you have. They've tried before in the 1930s. They weren't successful in most of it. They took enough of it to fund the IMF and the Exchange Stabilization Fund. My friend Anthony Blanchard, his father, actually brought back the legalization of gold in the 70s and, allowed the access. But generally speaking, most people were able to still have access to their gold because you can't find everyone's gold. You can't go door to door and be able to access everyone's gold. And if you did, by the way, there'd be an armed revolution. But in this case, when we have this digital control apparatus, you have gold and silver, not just as an investment. In my opinion, it's not even meant to be an investment. It's wealth insurance. Yet everyone has their money tied up in these like weird IRAs that have nothing to do with insurance or more just, risk, and have all their money just sitting in savings accounts and checking accounts. Why is it so important for people to look at physical gold and silver or gold IRAs, for example, as an option to shift out of this system of dependence?
Simply, it's actual money with zero counterparty risk, right? And it's accepted as money with a store of value or a transactional value amount per the content or size of said gold or silver worldwide. There isn't a place on this planet where you could not use gold and silver in some sort of parallel economy or barter market of value if it actually got to that point. But yet you could get to a point to where going into a digital system, whether you have the cash under the mattress, and I'm not saying don't keep cash under the mattress. I would definitely try to keep as much out of the banking system as possible. And you still need to pay the bills, man. Water heater goes down, you need a new roof, you need access to something, unfortunately, because we're not at a transactional base for gold and silver yet, that I think we will be. But you could get to the point to where, okay, January 1st, 2025, we're on a digital system. So if you have dollars, guess what? You got to put all your dollars in the bank account by the January 2nd or January 3rd, incrementally losing 50% or all the value. And if you don't, then burn it. It's just not where we're using anymore. So forget the fact of devaluation. I mean, things are coming so fast as far as just a perspective of decree. Gold and silver throughout history rise to meet that devaluation. I mean, that's why you got over $2,500 gold. Silver isn't performing to its true potential, but that ratio always comes back. Silver, I think, is one of the best assets and investment or money making opportunities the world's ever seen currently. Difficulty with silver is it's just so damn bulky to store, and it's hard to be mobile with it is the problem, but it definitely has the more upside potential. So again, I think people need to kind of man and woman up and start taking, again, inventory stock of where they're at currently, where they want to be. And you need to treat every day as if tomorrow isn't going to come. Now, most likely it will, but at some point, things do change. At some point, you go to bed on a Friday and you wake up on a Monday, and guess what? You got that digital system. You can access your cash. The cash you have at home is no longer used, or if you use it, you're not going to get as much value. You got to put in the banking system. Gold and silver is the only monetary unit that the world accepts everywhere on the damn planet, and it survived world wars, it survived Holocaust, it survived pandemics, and it still has value in countries that are tied into the game plan of what's coming or buying it hand over fist. So why aren't you? I think that's enough being said about it. It's just, where do you stand personally on a financial level? How do you go about it if you don't have metal? Where do you start? That's what I can help you with. If you already have metal, how do you continue to go? What would be a plan of action? And you got to, and things in life have to be measurable. Yeah. If you don't have a way to measure the progress, there is no progress at all. So people need to start putting a plan into place, because obviously, whether these ATM machines are used for a vaccine passport, and they could be, right? I mean, they absolutely could be. Are we going to be chipped up? I don't know. There's a book that says that we could. But I think the writing's on the wall as far as the control and the direction of where things are going to go. And the ones that rule this world and are for the majority in control until our 3.5% rise up and kick their fucking ass. Yeah. You know, they're going to keep pushing. I mean, the display of disgust that they actually publicize. You look at the Olympics, you look at all these different things. Look in parts of this country where they're trying to say pedophilia is acceptable. Mm-hmm. Come on. I don't know what planet people think they're from, but I mean, you can't sit back and just wait for action to tap and take upon itself. It needs to be measurable, and you need to wake up every single day and decide, okay, how am I going to kick ass and take names? Where do I stand? What do I need to accomplish so I can map out the next day? And you do this day after day. One, it builds your mental cognitive ability to fight what's coming. But two, you actually have a way to measure your progress.
Right.
And that's kind of the biggest thing. So you know it's coming. Yeah. If you don't have gold and silver, it's not going to work. If you need someone to talk to you to hold your hand, that's me. I have no problem doing it, but you need to take the effort and at least reach out to me. Josh mentioned it perfect that you got to mention Wham in the comment of that. Please do. A lot of people don't. I don't know why you're being asked to, but again, please do, because again, you come to a point to where if you don't have a way to measure something, you don't know its progress. Right? So it's all relative to everything in life. So please include that in the comments and reach out to us. But take this for what it is, you know, little by little by little by all at once. And how much has it progressed in the last 4 years, and more importantly, over the last 1 year to 6 months to 3 months? What's the end of the year going to look like?
Right.
Where are we going to be by Christmas?
And you know? Absolutely, Mark, and you're 100% right. I mean, you know, looking throughout history in world wars in the past, people hoarded gold, like the elites hoarded gold. They knew what was going to happen. They knew there's a way to ensure their wealth. If you look at what a lot of wars have been started over, it's because other world leaders had gold and wanted to take gold. Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, etc. They tried to go after Assad. They failed, but they're still trying. Again, countries that wanted to take gold rather than the dollar, for example, and that's a very dangerous approach, but it's a very important example of what is valued worldwide in times of crisis or in times of peace. Again, we have opportunities here in the face of what's coming, because World War III is going to be much worse. Einstein once said that, you know, he doesn't know what weapons will be used in World War III, but he knows that in World War IV, the weapons that will be used will be sticks and stones, because we're dealing with one of the biggest potential crises in our history, because in modern history for sure, because we're dealing with the technological factor, we're dealing with the weakness factor, the demoralization factor, the economic factor, which is people are dependent on this banking system. Having physical gold and silver, in my opinion, again, not investment advice, do your own due diligence, but is the most obvious route to making sure that you have some form of financial freedom. Even if everything is not going to be all rainbows going into all of this, you will have a much better way to approach this insane great reset. As they're building this giant technocratic Tower of Babel, you are able to survive this to some degree and make sure that you and your family are safe in all this, and your finances are safe at the same time. So again, we have options in the description for this. There's firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. Again, it has to be that exact link. It's in the description of the video. Don't forget to go click on it. If you're listening or if you're watching on Twitter, for example, you can't find it because you can't find the comment. It's in the description of all of our videos on Rumble or BitChute at World Alternative Media. Again, that's firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. And you will be able to get a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package. Again, he's a professional. He's awake. He's been doing this for a long time. And I think it's very beneficial for all of you guys to go and work with him today. If you already have an IRA, for example, that you're concerned about in the face of all the crises that are happening in the world, please consider looking at potentially a gold back IRA. Again, there's options available there. Just let them know again in the comments when you sign up that you found them at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM, and we appreciate it, and I think you'll appreciate it even more. So again, I appreciate, as always, Mark, you joining us today. We have a lot more to talk about in the future. There is, 50 to 100 things happening economically and non-economically every single day that are worth talking about. And it's, 1-2 person operation. It's hard to get to all of them, but we hope to bring all of you guys much more information soon that hopefully helps give you insight and helps save you from these coming crises right down the road. So again, I appreciate everyone watching. Thank you for joining us, Mark. And until next time,
Thank you.
This is Josh Sigurdsson signing out with Mark Gonzalez from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.